Welcome to Unit 17. Your first root is culp, which means guilt or blame. And your first word is culpable, which means guilty. The synonym for that is guilty, and your antonym is innocent, both pretty easy. You may remember from Unit 8, the able suffix means able to, so someone culpable is literally able to be blamed. And your sample sentence. Even though Vanessa technically didn't break the lamp, she was still culpable as she was the one who told her sister to do it. So you see in this sentence that word culpable used as an adjective, so you could literally replace culpable with guilty, right? She was still guilty as she was the one who told her sister to do it. Your next word is culprit. Culprit is the guilty person. So it makes sense that culprit equals culpable person. So because culprit is a noun, culpable is an adjective, a culprit is a culpable person. So that's a good way to remember the connection between these two words. Your synonyms are convict or wrongdoer. And your sample sentence, after the break-in, the store owner was thrilled to see how quickly the police had located and arrested the culprit, right? Culprit there, culpable person or guilty person, the person who committed the crime. Your next root is man, which means hand. If you speak Spanish and know that manos means hand, that will help you with this word. Your first word is emancipate, which means to free from restraint. Your synonyms are liberate or unchain, and your antonyms are enslave and incarcerate. The helpful hint tells you that the Emancipation Proclamation, so you see the word emancipate in there, the Emancipation Proclamation was the law that freed the slaves after the American Civil War. So that proclamation emancipated the slaves. Your sample sentence is, in September, the college freshman felt overjoyed to be emancipated from her parents and their rules. By November, she began to miss how much they'd provided for her. So she was emancipated, kind of metaphorically there, in being freed from her parents' rules. I also gave you this image here that is an empty jail cell, so the prisoner has been emancipated or freed. Your next word is manipulative, which means attempting to influence someone for one's own personal benefit. Your synonyms here are some other good words: scheming, devious, or crafty, which really means you're trying to trick someone or you're trying to manipulate them. The sample sentence is, ultimately, he lost his job because his superiors didn't condone how manipulative he had been in falsely inflating his performance scores. So he's trying to trick his bosses by being manipulative and trying to lie about the scores that he got on tests, for example. This picture over here is a manipulative child, so he's maybe planning how to trick his parents. So an example of how a child could be manipulative would be if they wanted permission to do something and they told dad, oh, mom told me I could, and told mom, dad told me I could, to try to manipulate his parents into getting whatever he wants. Your next root is esque, which means similar to. And your first word is grotesque, which means fantastically ugly or odd, bizarre. This picture here is a statue done in a grotesque style, or you could say it's a grotesque statue. As you can see, it's that ugly horn and beard and sort of misshapen face. So there are a lot of statues in classic architecture that could be described as grotesque. Your synonyms are deformed and monstrous, and your antonyms are beautiful and pretty. The helpful hint says that the slang usage of gross, as in describing a kid picking his nose, might be a way of remembering what something grotesque is. And your sample sentence, his roommates politely asked him to take down the grotesque paintings of automobile accidents that he'd put up in the living room. So this meaning of grotesque is a little bit different than the artwork. A grotesque painting of automobile accidents would mean maybe there was blood all over. They show bodies. It's disgusting and horribly ugly and terrible to look at. Your next word, picturesque, actually also works as an antonym for grotesque. Picturesque is like a picture. or similar to a picture, looking at the meaning of that root esque. It's visually charming, as if resembling a painting is your definition. So there's this picturesque scene over here because it's really beautiful. And your synonyms are photographic or artistic, and your antonyms are hideous or ugly. Your sample sentence says, the lighting and the background was so picturesque for the couple's wedding photographs that friends honestly thought the pictures were taken inside a studio in front of a backdrop. Your next root is magna, which means large, and your first word is magnanimous, which means generous or forgiving, especially toward a rival or someone less powerful than oneself. Your synonyms are charitable and forgiving, and your antonyms are skeptical, suspicious, or petty. Your sample sentence reads, the principal was known for being magnanimous and would give students a chance to redeem themselves when they had broken the rules. So someone might expect a principal just to punish people, but this principal is magnanimous in that he or she is forgiving and lets students redeem themselves rather than punishing them. And over here with that picture of frogs, looks like maybe that frog is asking for forgiveness, and the magnanimous frog is forgiving the other one. Your next word is magnet, which is a person of great influence or power in a particular field. Your synonyms are VIP, mogul, tycoon, and high muckamuck. And your sample sentence is, even decades after the oil boom had dried up, the oil magnate was still able to lead an extravagant, privileged life. So a magnate is someone who has a lot of power in a field, usually very wealthy. So this oil magnate made a lot of money from the oil industry and was very wealthy. This guy over here is Henry Ford, who was an auto magnate, and he made cars and also was very important in the auto industry and made lots and lots of money from it. Your next root is log, which means word, and your first word is prologue, which is an introductory part of a novel or play. Your sample sentence reads, in the prologue of the novel, the author writes about the difficult economic times in Central America in the 1970s. So the prologue will often be the first thing in a novel or a play and serves as kind of an introduction or some background information to the work. Over here is the beginning of the prologue to Romeo and Juliet, which gives some background about what's happening in Verona at the time and the families who are going to be the main characters in the play. Your next word is monologue. You see that root mono means one, so a monologue is one person speaking. Your definition is a long dramatic speech given by a single speaker. The helpful hint is that your poetry out loud performance was a sort of monologue. You were speaking alone to your audience. And your sample sentence is, while most of the movie was forgettable, the warrior's monologue before the battle was impressive, and people quoted memorized portions of it for months. So there are a lot of movies that have really passionate monologues where a character will give a speech about something that they believe in. And over here is a little picture of an actor giving a monologue and giving an extended speech by himself. Your next root is mute, which means change, and your first word is mutable. Mutable means able to change forms or inconsistent. Your synonyms are changeable or unstable, and your antonyms are constant or steady. You may remember that able from Unit 8 means able to, and something mutable is able to change. Your sample sentence is, the boy's opinions were so mutable that nearly anyone could talk him into changing his mind on almost any issue. So mutable often refers to attitudes or opinions or beliefs. So if you have mutable opinions, they change a lot. If you have mutable taste in music, your taste in music changes a lot. And I do think that able to change will help you a lot with this word. Your next word is mutation, which means a deviation from the norm or the act of changing. Your synonyms are anomaly, deviation, and evolution, and your antonyms are normalcy and stability. The helpful hint is the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, because of their mutation, are unlike most turtles who only have meager ninja skills and cannot speak English. And your sample sentence is the waste that was being dumped into the lake caused mutations in the fish population, with many fishermen reporting seeing fish unlike any they had ever encountered. So these, I think, are all examples of genetic mutations, which means that a creature or an animal or a person is born with something that's different. So the fishermen are strange mutated fish. The Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles are not like normal turtles. And this cute little guy over here, I believe, has an emu head and a meerkat body, so he has some strange mutations. I think he's invented. I don't think that's something that exists in nature. Your next root is scrib or script, which means write. And your first word is proscribe, which means to condemn as harmful or to prohibit. Your synonyms are ban or forbid, and your antonyms are allow, encourage, or welcome. I like the synonym ban. I think that's really easy to remember. If you ban something, you prescribe it. You can just substitute those words for each other. The helpful hint is important. Do not confuse this with prescribe. If a doctor prescribes exercise, he wants you to go jogging. If he proscribes exercise, he wants you to stay inside because he's forbidding exercise. Listen carefully to your doctor. It could save your life. Your sample sentence is, when she was diagnosed with being lactose intolerant, the doctor proscribed eating ice cream and cheese. So forbid her from eating ice cream and cheese. And this picture over here is a no smoking sign, so it indicates that smoking is proscribed in that area. Your next word is nondescript, which is undistinguished or uninteresting. Your synonyms are unremarkable or uninteresting, and your antonyms are distinguished or exceptional. You may remember non is a prefix from for that means not, so something nondescript is something not worth describing. And your sample sentence, the criminal easily slipped into the crowd unnoticed because his features were so ordinary and nondescript. People tend to be described as nondescript if they're really average looking and there's not anything particularly distinguishing about their appearance. So this man symbolically here, this man has no face because people didn't remember his face because he was really nondescript. So if he has really average facial features and he has a really average brown hair, someone might say, well, I met this guy, he was kind of nondescript. I don't know what to tell you about how to find him. Or similarly, a house or a car might be nondescript if it was a really average-looking house or car. Your final root is metri or meter, which means measure. The fact that a meter is a unit of measurement should help you with that. Your first word is parameters, which are guidelines, and your synonyms are criteria or instructions, which means that when you get an assignment, you might get a list of parameters for that assignment, which would be your list of guidelines or instructions. Your sample sentence is, the increased mischief in the old age home forced a change in the parameters of what behaviors would be tolerated and what ones wouldn't. So they needed new rules or new guidelines or new parameters for behavior in the old age home. Your last word is pentameter. Pentameter is a line in poetry that contains 5 feet or 5 stressed syllables. There are examples below that I'll get to in a second. But your helpful hint is that you may already know iambic pentameter from Shakespeare. While iambic describes the pattern of the syllable stresses, pentameter explains the length of the line. And your sample sentence is, the sentence, I wish my cat would leave my face alone, is written in iambic pentameter. So going back to the definition for a second, what you really want to note is that pentameter means there are 5 stressed syllables. So it's helpful to look at these examples down here to see what that means exactly. So this first one, which was in the sample sentence, has each of these slashes represents a stressed syllable. So if you hear me read it in an exaggerated way, you get, I wish my cat would leave my face alone, right? So there are 10 total syllables, right? I wish my cat would leave my face alone, but only 5 of those are emphasized, right? So I wish my cat would leave my face alone. Those are each the emphasized syllables, and there are 5 of them. Same thing over here. This is the beginning of the prologue to Romeo and Juliet. And each one of these slashes is a stressed syllable. So 2 households both alike in dignity, in fair Verona where we lay our scene. So I'm exaggerating, obviously, but you should still be able to hear them if I read them normally. So 2 households both alike in dignity, in fair Verona where we lay our scene. You should still be able to hear those stressed syllables. So those are written in iambic pentameter. And the way that you'd use that in a sentence is saying that something is written in pentameter or written in iambic pentameter. And that's all for Unit 17.